action report and a little bit of a discussion of gameplay for FlashPoint South China Sea. I've covered an unboxing and I've covered previous after action gameplay that was a 2-player. This one is going to be focusing on solo play. So let's take a look at the board and see where we ended up. So I was playing the US. You can choose either US or China. And was playing the US and ended up winning the game at 5 victory points. And this was the final kind of board state after at the end of that game. I did it on easy mode, where you start out with, I think it starts out at 3 victory points for the US. So didn't really move it very far in this game. I got up to 11 or 12 at one point for the US, and you can get an automatic victory or instant victory if you get to 15. But I kept losing. Anything I gained on that front, I lost with the islands, because the Chinese, anytime they place influence there or get the cubes there, the reclamation, those do not leave, and anything that the U.S. puts in under the FONOP, that gets removed at the end of that campaign turn. So the Chinese can build up quite a bit of a barrier there that is always going to be inhibiting your scoring when you do the FONOP scoring or the island scoring, because those are always there. And so they built those up relatively early, and so that was always going to kick me out if I didn't at least try to keep close in putting stuff in the FONOP. So this was the final round. This was the final, I guess, board state. 5 victory points, up from 3. You know, not that great. Given that this was the easy setting, it'd be interesting to see where, if I would have played on anything less, I would have probably lost. I'd have to go back and look and see what the conditions are for that. So like if I was playing the for normal difficulty, you start at 0. So I guess I would have still won normal, but I would end up losing the harder game, because it starts at 3 Chinese victory points, and I only end up with +2. So I would have been in the red, so to speak, in more ways than one. So that's another thing about the game that is interesting here. You can just pick up the solo rules of play and just read this and play the game solo. There's 2 rules of play. There's the regular version, or the multiplayer, the 2-player version, I should say. And then you have the solo rules of play. This has everything in it that you need to understand to play the game solo. So, it's 2 rule books, and you don't have to know the other one to play the solo, and vice versa. So that's kind of nice. I mean, it helps if you know how to play the game, because it still follows most of the same structure. The solo play rules are different, just mimicking the AI, because they don't have a deck of cards. So let's talk a little bit about how they do play the game. So they have a solo deck that is only for that you use in solo play. And this kind of guides what they're going to do on their turn. Again, they don't have a deck of cards. So they're not going to be drawing cards from the event deck and then playing them. They're going to go through this structure, the structure on these cards, but more importantly, the structure that's on this solo play aid. So if you're playing against the US, you'd use this side, and it's going to tell you what you need to do different, mainly the FONOPs usually. But if you use this side, this is the side for the China opponent. And your sequence of play is you're going to reveal the solo opponent's event card. So at the beginning of the turn, and your opponent, the solo bot, always goes first. And so you'll reveal a card off the top of the event deck, and that's going to tell you what you're going to do. So if the scoring is such that, so if Indonesia is not been scored, and if you don't know how to play FlashPoint, I ain't gonna teach it. No, this video is not gonna help you out with that. Although, go back and look at my gameplay for 2-player. I kind of go over a little bit of the mechanics and tell you how to play that, so you get at least a feel for it. But again, don't take my word for it. Read the rule book. And again, the game's not that complicated. But you have these scorecards here. So the first thing you're going to do is check the event card. And so this is score Indonesia. If Indonesia is face up, meaning that it hasn't been scored for that turn yet, then you're going to check to see what are the requirements for Indonesia. And if China would end up scoring victory points, then you go ahead and score, and then the turn's over. And that happened with me quite a bit early on with the islands, at least for turns 1 and 2. They've got the island scoring early on, and the Chinese were already ahead, so they were scoring that each. Like the first time it was only 1, so it wasn't that big a deal, but the next time around it was like 3 or 4 points or something like that. So it started snowballing a little bit there. But that's the first thing you do is you'll turn over this event card, and this event card is just for kind of the reference for the solo bot. And you check the scoring. And if the Chinese wouldn't score, if they either had less or it's equal, then you move on to the next thing, and you draw a solo card. So then you draw a card off this deck here, and it's going to go through some features here. So first, you're going to check for a friendly match mode. And the friendly match mode this is all dealing with the matches, this is the part, I got to be honest, this is part of the game that when we were playing 2-player, we kind of forgot. And even when I was playing solo, I don't think it ever came up, but the matches it's a friendly. So if you have a red and you have a red in the discard pile, you'll match the symbols. In this case, these symbols don't match, plus they're not the same color. So you're going to check for a friendly match, and that's what it does there. And that's going to dealing with, removing. It's going to deal with the islands usually and deals with tension. Then if the solo opponent's event card is 1 op card, so like there's a lot of this isn't because this is a 2. Then you're going to, and there's 6 CRs. That's the Chinese reclamation on the islands. Then it's going to affect the tension, right? And then if tension is not critical and the solo card indicates that the political warfare, and in this case it doesn't indicate political warfare because it only has the U.S. But for example, if we had this card here, then there's a chance for political warfare for the Chinese there. And so this deck, as you can tell here, it's got both symbols on it because this deck, you use this deck whether you're playing against the U.S. or playing against China. So it's multi-purpose that way. So then you would go to political warfare. And so normally the way you do political warfare here, you have to put cubes in your political war. You have to spend operation costs, right, which are these numbers up here. You've got to spend operation points to do these things, and that you would have to do that for political warfare. And then when you want to do political warfare, you're going to draw off the top of the event deck. And if that number the ops number of that card is equal or less, then you've got a successful political warfare. If it's higher, then you don't. And if you have a successful political warfare, it allows you to lock down an area like this one. Philippines here is locked down. I did a successful political warfare on that. And you're able to remove like either economic or diplomatic cubes from, or influence, I should say, economic or diplomatic influence from that area and put it back in the other side's availability. And now you've locked it down. They can't do anything in there for the rest of the game unless they do a political warfare and knock out your lock. So political warfare is not done with the normal route for the AI or the bot. You go through these cards here to see if there's political warfare on it. And in this case, the card I drew, there was no political warfare, so they can't do political warfare that turn. The bot did political warfare a couple of times in this game. So I don't know if that's on par with what should happen or not, but it happened a couple of times in this game. And then if you go through all that and nothing else has happened, none of those things have been initiated, then you're going to perform operations at the end. And what the operations are generally are in the first and second campaign. So that's the first and second, there's several rounds to it, but these are like the turns. So first turn, second turn, you're going to place, if the economic scoring card is face down, place diplomatic cubes before economic. Otherwise, you place economic. So, and you're going to base it on this influence here. This is the order of when you're going to place those cubes. So you'll start with Malaysia, then Philippines, and so on this card. And each one of those cards are different on what the order is. And you'll place accordingly. And then depending on if the economic card is face down or face up, or, in later rounds, it's purely economic, or you try to go for economic first, but that tells you how you place, the order of placing influence. And that's it. So between drawing a reference card, event card, that's going to key off several things of what the opponent might do, having this opponent solo card, which tells you certain things that the opponent might do, and then the end result, if you don't do any of those special actions, you're going to just place influence or place cubes as normal, but you're going to base it on this priority. Between this card and this chart, that's the game for the solo bot. The rest of the game is normal. I mean, it's your turn. When it becomes your turn, you're going to have a hand of 6 cards, and you're going to play it for either its event. A bit like this one I couldn't play because it's not friendly to me, but let's pull up one here. So I can either play for the event here, or I can play for the ops value, or I can play for the scoring value. So again, the events are multi-purpose. It's just like, it's the way the regular game, the 2-player game is played, but I can use these points to do these operations, placing cubes in certain areas, or placing political warfare, or readying cubes, moving cubes out of the reserve to available, so, stuff like that. Or I can place it for the event and follow the rules for each of the event, or I can play it for the scoring if the scoring is still available and it makes sense for me to score, meaning that I'm actually going to score some victory points instead of lose victory points. Then I might play it for the scoring and try to boost my victory points on the track. And then the last thing is, of course, is this match, which again, that's one thing for some reason, I just keep forgetting to do that sometimes. And plus, it doesn't show up all that often because you have to match the symbol with a symbol that's in the discard pile, so you can do a match that way. So that's the game. This is how this one ended up. Does not take very much time at all. The 2-player game. I think after we got the rules down, I mean, again, it's not a complex game, but once it does take at least a read through and kind of pushing stuff around to figure out, okay, that's how that works. Once you get it down, it's easy peasy. And a 2-player game, I think, took us, first time with going through the rules, it took us right around 30 minutes, maybe 35. The solo play, if you know how to play the game already, just going through the solo sequence of play, doing that like after the third time we did it on the first campaign, after I did it on the third time on the first campaign, it was kind of, okay, rinse and repeat. I got this down. I mean, sometimes you're looking in the rules here to see, all right, oh, this is a one op card. I do something different there, or this is a chance for political warfare. What do I do there? Once you've gone through each of these instances at least once, or have had that come up, then you know how to do it the next time around, and then it goes really quick. And so I think even with referring to the rules, I still played this probably under 30 minutes. So it's a quick game. There's some good decision points here. I like it. I think I still like the 2-player version of this better. I haven't played the solo enough yet to figure out if I like it or not. Plus, I want to try some of the different difficulty levels. So you got 3 different difficulty levels for the U.S. and then 3 difficulty levels for China. So you've got typically, I guess, if my math serves me correct, you've got 6 different ways or 6 different alternatives to play the solo version. But it's going to be different every time based on what cards you're drawing in the event deck and what cards you're drawing out of the solo deck. So you have that as well. But again, I still think I like the 2-player and the give and take, and the fact that this game is relatively quick to set up. I mean, you just got to put the setup cubes out for this, for how you're starting out, and just lay out the cards, shuffle, and you're going, you're running and gunning. And so so for a 2-player game, I mean, this is something that if you have the table space, you can play this over your lunch hour, and get it in, and still have time for dessert. So, but the solo plays pretty quick too. In fact, I was going to. It was so late last night, I didn't do it. But I wasn't just going to reset and let's try this again. Let's try it at a different difficulty level, or let's flip sides and let's go against the U.S. this time. So I'm liking it. I like this is not deep, but it is, and it's highly abstract. But it is a game, and it is focusing on the game mechanics, and it gives you some of the feel of the conflict here. And there are decision points, between the economic and the diplomatic and the islands, and what you want to focus on, and how you want to try to go for lockdowns, and which events you get. There is still some decision place here, even though it's not that deep of a game. Anyway, that's what I have for you. Love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you guys been playing this? Solo, multiplayer? What's your thoughts? Do you like the solo system? Which do you like better? Do you not like the game at all? Or what do you like about the game? Love to hear your thoughts on that, and see the dialogue started. But most importantly, thanks for stopping by. I know your time is precious, so any amount of time you spend with me is greatly appreciated. I really am amazed sometimes that you guys are even listening to me. But I do appreciate that, and that's what I have for you today is FlashPoint South China Sea, the solo rules, or the solo edition of it. Love to hear your thoughts, and as always, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching.